Sustainable Growth for Service Businesses, and I'm doing a Facebook Live right now to talk about how to beat your competition. But we're just going to give people a few minutes just to come online and get watching the video. I'm going to refresh my page so I know that it's come online properly and get all the IT stuff going on nicely. Then let's scroll down and see if it's appeared. See if I can see my own face, which is always a little bit off-putting. Let's see if I can find myself. It would be a good start if I could. But this way, I think you'll be able to find me easier than I'm finding myself. Right, so let's see if I am up and running. Yep, I can see myself on my laptop. We'll just let a few more people join in. Obviously, if you can hear me, if you can show me some thumbs up and that kind of thing. I've just given myself a yeehaw. I'm guessing that's Todd posting as me, so that's kind of quite funny. Hopefully you can hear me, so you want to be able to share this and give me some love on the emojis during this. That would be great. So we'll just keep going for another minute or two before I dig into the content properly. And then we'll see where this takes us. I mean, hopefully we'll get through this in about 15 minutes. It's not going to be a big, long one. Sometimes I don't see the value in doing big, long talks because people just get a bit bored after a while. So we're going to try and keep this short and snappy, get through it in about 15 minutes and give you lots of valuable content. So let's just see if anybody else is coming online before I get going. Oh, now I've got Todd as proper Todd. Hi, Todd. Thanks for the thumbs up. We've got a few people now. Let's just wait a little bit longer. So it's only just turned 1 o'clock, so I'll just wait. Yeah, you did sneak on. We're up to 3 people. So that's a few more joining us now. So I'll just pad again. I hope the sun's shining wherever you are. It's a little bit overcast here, actually, warm but overcast. I've had to close off a lot of the light, natural light, just so it didn't flood my face and I get all white out on the camera. So let's just see if anybody else is going to join. There's a few more people that were going to come online. Let's see what's happening. Todd's sharing it around. Oh, hi, Neil. I see you've just joined us. Right, okay, so let's kick off. We've got a few now, and it is 1 minute past 1, so let's kick off. Hopefully, Heidi, I was going to say, Heidi, I hope you got your cup of tea. Right, so I'm Claire McTurnan. I'm the only person in the UK that specialises in sustainable growth for service businesses. So I work with loads of private clients. I often hear them struggling to deal with competition. Now, to a certain extent, I try not to worry about competition because I feel like if you worry too much about competition, it's kind of like a scarcity mindset, just to get a little bit like pink and fluffy about it. But it is like a mindset issue. Realistically, there's shed loads of business out there for everybody. So there should never really be a problem about competition. But I know sometimes competition can be a real challenge. Now, I could have easily called this Facebook Live, how to get more business. Because the same rules apply to get more business versus how to beat your competition. But I went for the competition angle because I know there's a few people out there at the moment in my network who are struggling with competition. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on that and give you some help. So I have 6 key things to do to try and beat your competition. Now, the first one is absolutely no surprise. My number 1 fundamental top tip is you absolutely need to be able to express your value. Now, your value is the core bit of your business. From your value, everything else is based. You can't sell anything unless you know the value you deliver. People aren't going to buy what you have unless you can explain why they need to buy it, unless you can explain why buying your product or service is actually going to enrich their life in some ways. Now, if what you sell is a very small, low price, not necessarily low value, but low price commodity like a tin of beans, then you don't have to work that hard on explaining the value. But if what you sell is actually something that's a lot more valuable, has a higher price tag, then you're going to have to work a bit harder at describing that value. Now, the classic phrase I use to help people understand the difference between describing the value and your benefits versus the features is people buy the destination, not the plane. Now, think about going on holiday. You go on a plane if you're going abroad because that's just a feature of the holiday. You're going to go on a plane because it's the quickest way to get to Orlando or the Caribbean or Lanzarote or wherever you're going. It is just a feature of the holiday. You're not particularly buying the plane itself. What you're buying is that sort of like transformation you're going to achieve when you've been on holiday for 2 weeks. That is what you're actually buying. That relaxation, that quality time, that good food, the beach. That's the experience you're buying. That is the transformation, that end result that you're buying when you buy that holiday. You're not buying the plane, not unless you're a total plane geek. But generally, people are not buying the plane. That is just a feature. And we kind of know this. We know we buy that transformation, and we know we're meant to describe our benefits and not our features. But yet when people write their copy for their marketing, or when they do their like 60 seconds or 40 seconds pitch, they tend to focus on the features. We do this because features are comfort zone. They're easy for us to talk about, so we tend to default to them. Even sometimes we do it without realizing we're doing it. But people don't buy your features. Fundamentally, take me, fundamentally, people do not care that when they actually work with me, they're going to spend time with me. They take that as a given. What they're actually buying is the result of working with me. So if I said, here's my price and you're going to get 2 hours with me, they wouldn't really be that bothered. But if I say, here's my price and this is the transformation I'm going to help you achieve, then they get excited. Then they want to work with me. So you've got to really think about describing that value. And the more you can describe that value, the clearer the language you use, the more detailed it is, the more people will want to put their hands in their pockets and buy what you're selling. This is fundamental. If you can't define your value well enough, then it will truly impact your sales. So if you rely a lot on meeting people face to face, building a rapport for them to then buy your stuff, this could well be because you're not articulating the value clearly enough. You're having to rely on building the relationship first. Okay, so if you do fall into that trap, this value problem could be the nub of that. You need to crack the value that you deliver. And it can be hard to do that. I'm not saying describing your value is the easiest thing ever, and this is where you need to ask your clients about the value they get from working with you or using your thing, whatever it is that you sell. But you have to get that articulated really, really well to actually make a good solid difference and actually be able to beat your competition, because you can guarantee your competition is stuck in feature zone. So if you get good at describing your value, you will start beating your competition out of the way, because you'll be able to convey why people need to buy your stuff far more effectively than they can. So that is fundamentally core to everything you do in your business. Okay. Number 2 is related to the value, is about being proud of your price. Right, you need to be proud of the amount you charge. If you're worried about the amount you charge, if you think you're a bit expensive, then people are going to pick up on that. Even subconsciously, there'll be just the slight sort of like lilt in your voice will change as you say your price. And if you're not confident at pitching your price, they're not going to be confident about saying yes. So you need to be really confident about that. Now, there is a challenge for some businesses. I know one of my clients was going to watch this and they've had to deal with this week, is if you're VAT registered and selling to an end user, like a consumer, and you're up against competition who are not VAT registered, then you can instantly be 20% more expensive. And that can be a real challenge. And if you do fall into that trap, you know what? Be proud of the fact you have to pay VAT. Be proud of the fact you have to charge that, because that means you're a really well-established business. And if your competitors aren't having to charge VAT, that means they're not as established as you are. So use that in your marketing. Now, I'm not saying go out and trash your competitors. What I'm saying is be clear why you are more expensive. It's because you have a proven track record, you've grown year on year, and that growth has meant that now you have to actually add VAT onto your services. But that means you're really reliable and people want to buy your stuff over and over again. So use it to your advantage. Some people, Tosh put, but do people buy on price? It depends. I reckon if you're a real low-end commodity, then yes, they will. If you inadvertently position yourself as a commodity, even if you're not, and social media management could be part of this, if you're not meant to be a commodity, don't position yourself as one and then remove price out of the discussion. If you get the value right, if you can explain why people should work with you based on the results that people, value-added tips, if you can clearly, you throw me off, Todd. If you can clearly describe that transformation, then price becomes far less of an issue. Okay, which actually leads me quite nicely on to point number 3. Point number 3 is about managing the objections. Now, we all know what objections are. That's at the point when you say, you can buy this is the price, and then the person you're talking to starts saying, oh, well, I'm not sure about this, that, and the other. Those are the classic objections, right? What tends to happen is the people have the objections in their head before they even get to that part of the conversation. And you want to head them off at the pass before they even vocalize that kind of stuff. I have hay fever. I can feel the sneezes brewing, which would be hilarious. So I do apologize in advance if I sneeze in a minute. Now, what you want to do is head those objections off before they vocalise them. And this is a lot easier to do than it sounds. So the classic objections for most people when they're buying a service is, I don't have the time to work with somebody, or it's going to take up too much of my time to do it, or I don't have the money. Those are the classic objections. So the thing to do is to work out your answer to those objections. So how can you overcome those objections for your ideal client? Why is it they shouldn't worry about the amount of time it's going to take? Why is it they shouldn't worry about how much it's going to cost? Deal with those kind of objections. I mean, the time thing, for me, people have to take time out of their day to come work with me. That's just the way it works. But you know what? My first session with them, I always deal with how to create more time in their diaries anyway. So boom, not an issue for my clients. I take it off the page straight away. Secondly, the amount of money something might cost, well, that gets minimised by the level of transformation they're going to achieve with you. If you can describe that value, that transformation well enough, your fee will always be a lot less than that. If it's not, you've got a problem. But I've never yet met somebody that charges more than the level of transformation they deliver for their clients. So as long as you can describe that level of transformation, then they will say yes. The price is not an issue. You know, you can even literally draw it out for them. I've done that not so long ago for a potential client, and they said yes based on it. Hi Neil, don't worry, I totally understand, replays are great. So handling those objections becomes a real key part in that sales discussion. Okay, now even if you have to rely on the proposal, you can still deal with those objections in writing in the proposal. It absolutely works. Which leads me on beautifully to point number 4, which is don't rely on the proposal. Most people find it a lot easier to close the business when they're in front of somebody, but a lot harder to do it if they have to rely on the proposal. Would you share, do you reckon that's right? How many of you struggle to close if you have to rely on the proposal versus when you're actually staring somebody in the whites of the eyes? Now, one issue with this could be because you're not great when it comes to writing your proposal. Okay, now if you're selling a service which has a fair bit of like strategic consultancy in it, that kind of thing, what people tend to do is turn themselves into a bit of a commodity in the proposal and get quite detailed on the features and the price tag. And therefore you lose that whole value bit that you probably would have done if you were speaking to them face to face. This shows you need to put more stuff in your proposal. If you do find, like Todd is just saying he does it, if you do find you're great at closing face-to-face but not in your proposal, you need to think about what are you doing when you're face-to-face that you're not doing in the proposal. To me, that proposal should be just as good as the dialogue you have with somebody face-to-face. You need to cover everything in there you would naturally cover in that conversation. You need to talk about your team, so who's going to be doing the work. You want them to realise there's breadth to what you offer. You want to be articulating what it is they want to achieve by buying your services or products, what it is they're going to get, so what level of delivery they're going to see, what kind of transformation they're going to achieve. You want to obviously talk about all the main bits. I can see all these comments coming up. I'm struggling to see them all, but I will reply to them all later. So you need to lay out all these key bits. Please talk about the team. Absolutely put your testimonials in there. The testimonials will do the selling bit for you. Most people forget to put testimonials in their proposal. This is a real key bit. And don't necessarily bury them at the back. Don't shove them as an appendix. Make them a real front and centre piece of that proposal, because this is the really important stuff. If you hook them at the beginning with understanding exactly what they want to achieve and all the results you tend to get for people, they will read to the end. And all of a sudden your price tag won't seem quite so scary. But if you tend to send in a proposal which is, we'll do this, here's your price tag, that could be why you're losing out. Now, the reason I say don't rely on your proposal is if you're anything like me in the past, I've been in that kind of sales meeting and in my head I could feel that sales point has approached where you've got to actually tell them how much you charge and that kind of thing. And the little voice in my head started to go, oh, you know what, don't worry about pitching, you can just send them an email and close them on email later. Now, I bet I'm not the only one that does that. I kind of work on the basis if my head says that to me, that I bet everybody else's heads do it too. Please don't listen to that little voice. I've got really good at ignoring it and just laying things out in a nice conversation and getting people to say yes. So I don't rely anymore. Exactly, Emma, your testimonials are fab. So I just had a comment come up on my screen, so that would look a bit bizarre if I suddenly put my finger forward and poke the screen. This is why you shouldn't leave all the selling to your proposal, because once you're out of the door, your chance of getting them to say yes has gone down quite significantly. So you need to try and close them while you can see the whites of their eyes. If you have to rely on the proposal, make sure the proposal is all singing, all dancing, okay? Don't make it a one-pager. This will not do it. You need to lay it out, especially if you're up against other people at that point. Now, a good example of this is if you're having to tender for things. So you might not ever get in front of the people that you need to actually convince. If you're having to tender, sometimes the tender documents are very prescriptive. Okay, obviously if they are, put in as much as you can that I've just talked about. If they're not prescriptive, then build in all the extra stuff we've just mentioned, okay? Now, if you are having to respond to a tender, Try and talk to somebody within the business. There'll be somebody that doesn't feel so constrained with procurement guidelines. There'll be somebody that's willing to have a conversation. And ideally, you need to find yourself what we would call an inside coach, somebody on the inside, which is going to be around the decision makers when they make their decision about who to position the work with. Okay, I used to work in corporate life, and we used to always pitch and sell into other big corporate type organizations. So quite often we wouldn't be anywhere near that table when the decision was made. And we used to win a very high portion of our jobs because we would find somebody on the inside that would coach us on the right phrases to use, like what buttons to push in that proposal to make sure we could actually win the work. This approach works over and over again. Okay, so if you do have to tender, then do that kind of approach. And I've already covered point number 5, which is have an inside coach if you're going into big corporates. It's quite common to convince yourself that if you are up against competition and they're going to be cheaper and a decision's being made when you're not around the table in a big corporate environment, that you will lose. You don't have to. You just need to lay things out. If you find you are losing jobs when you shouldn't be and you're losing on price, it's because you're fundamentally not putting something in that proposal to convince them of the additional value your additional price actually delivers. Okay, or alternatively, they don't see the value in the extra bells and whistles you're going to deliver above your cheaper competition. Okay, so you need to understand what's causing that behaviour in them and do something about it. It's not as black and white as just because you're not around the table you won't win the work. Right, so number 6, the last one, is really easy, really straightforward, certainly isn't a new thing, and that is follow up. Most people don't follow up. Your competitors won't be following up. Your competitors certainly will not be doing all these 6 things I've just laid out for you. So you absolutely need to follow up. You will win in the follow-up, okay? This is the way to do it. And I know following up isn't fun. You know, it's probably definitely not my most favourite part of the job whatsoever, right? But you do need to go for the follow-up. You need to just check in with people. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be like you're turning into their stalker, but you do need to just touch base, see how things are going. Invariably, people's decision making is just really slow, but you'll convince yourself that they don't want to buy your stuff. But hang with it. If you keep going, you will win the business. Your competitors will stop. You'll keep going and you'll get across the finishing line when they don't. This stuff works, hands down. You know, I've just seen that comment there. Jay, absolutely agree. I detest it myself. But I do it because I know it's what you need to do. Now, I want to loop back round. So I said this would probably be about a 15-ish minute talk. It's 1:16 now, so I've just been going for about 15 minutes. So I'm on a loop back round to the whole value point, right? I was talking about the difference between features and benefits, okay? And I talked about the phrase, people buy the destination, not the plane, because when you go on holiday, it's all about that holiday and not about actually the plane you're going on. But I also want to remind you of this, right? This is a book. I love this book. I'm a big Brian Tracy fan. Now, I bought this book because I believed in the level of transformation I would achieve if I read it and implemented it. I didn't buy it because it was 12.6 centimetres by 19.6 and 127 pages long. Now, in all fairness, I did like the fact it was quite a thin book, and as you can see, it was very well read. But I didn't buy it because it was that size. I bought it because I believed in the level of transformation I'd get if I implemented it. Remember this when you write your marketing material. Remember this when you're pitching. People don't buy the features. You absolutely have to explain the value, and that can be really tricky. I think there's something intrinsically English about finding it hard to describe the value you deliver. You know, and because I know how hard this is and because I know how important it is to nail this, to enable you to really grow your business exponentially, then I run a workshop helping people describe that value, okay? I call it How to Make the Selling Easy, because once you can get that value bit sorted, everything comes easy. Your marketing becomes effortless. Your selling comes effortless. In the same workshop, I show you how to have a sales conversation quite effortless. This is great for people like me who started their business because they believed they had a core expertise that could help people and not because I was going to be a super ninja salesperson. Okay, so if you're like quite a heart-centered entrepreneur that just wants to share what you do and help people, this is a great way of learning how to sell. And the next version of this workshop is on the 13th of June. It's a Tuesday. It's 3 weeks today, actually. In lovely Leamington Spa, just off the M40. So it's dead easy to get to from all around the country. And last time we had people coming up from Oxford and down from Manchester direction. So this workshop is fab. I'll pop the link below in the comments so everybody can see it. If you want to book on, just let me know. There's payment profiles available because I believe that money shouldn't stand in the way of people actually getting the growth they want. And pretty much for everybody, gaining one more client will totally give you positive return on investment versus how much I charge for the workshop. This stuff is a no-brainer, and it'll really help you describe that value you deliver so you can thrash your competition, so you can effortlessly sell, so you can actually make life a fair amount easier for yourself, because you'll have to do less work. There you go, Todd's just shared it. You have to do less work to actually gain the clients, which is just great. You know, this is how I sell all the time, and I am no ninja salesperson, but I do have a really good high conversion rate because I use this kind of stuff. So if that's of interest, please let me know. Just shove some stuff in the comments below. I hope you've really enjoyed this. Please keep putting stuff in the comments. I'll come back and answer all your questions as I go through them in a few minutes. I've loved sharing this with you. Please feel free to share this Facebook Live around to people. I'm Claire McTurnham. I'm the only person in the UK that specialises in sustainable growth for service businesses. I'm all about no fluff, just results. I hope that's been good. Thank you.